The great chamber stretched before him like a cathedral built for giants. Ambassador Do-hyun stood at the center of the circular floor, his hands clasped behind his back to hide their trembling. Above him, arranged in ascending rings that reached toward the domed ceiling, sat the representatives of 47 alien civilizations. Some had faces he could almost understand. Others were so strange that looking at them too long made his head hurt. He had practiced his speech 1,000 times. He had chosen every word with care. Now, standing in this place where empires rose and fell with a single vote, those words felt small and useless. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Do-hyun began. His voice amplified by technology he did not fully understand. I come before you today, not as a politician or a soldier, but as a father, as a son, as a member of a species facing extinction. The translator crystals embedded in the walls hummed, converting his words into 47 different languages and thought patterns. Some of the council members leaned forward with interest. Most remained still, their alien faces unreadable. 18 months ago, our scientists detected an anomaly moving through this sector of space. We call it the Void Cascade. It is a wave of dark matter and collapsed space-time, consuming everything in its path. Planets, stars, entire solar systems, all reduced to nothing. Do-hyun activated the holographic display at his feet. The projection showed the cascade as a wall of absolute darkness, spreading across the star map like spilled ink. Red markers indicated worlds already lost. Earth sat directly in its path, marked with a pulsing yellow light. We have studied this phenomenon for every day since its discovery. Our best scientists believe it cannot be stopped, only diverted or slowed. But we lack the technology and resources to do this alone. We have 300 years of spaceflight experience. Many of you have had millions. He paused, letting the numbers sink in. We come to you humbly, asking for your help. We do not ask for charity. We offer everything we have in return. Our knowledge, our resources, our labor. We ask only for a chance to survive. The chamber fell silent except for the soft hum of the translation crystals. Then, one by one, the council members began to speak among themselves. Their voices created a noise, like wind through dead trees. Finally, High Arbiter Vrexoth raised a crystalline appendage for silence. The being looked like a mountain of living glass, its surface constantly shifting with internal light. When it spoke, its voice sounded like breaking ice. Ambassador Do-hyun of Earth. Your plea has been heard and discussed. However, this council has reviewed the data you provided. Our own scientists have studied the Void Cascade extensively. We have known about it for several of your decades. Do-hyun felt his stomach drop. They had known, and said nothing. The cascade is indeed a serious threat, Vrexoth continued. However, our analysis shows that diverting it would require resources equivalent to the total economic output of 12 major civilizations for 10 years. The energy expenditure alone would destabilize 3 nearby star systems. The Council has determined that such an effort is not practical. Not practical? Do-hyun's voice cracked. We are talking about the lives of 11 billion people. We are talking about the stability of an entire galactic sector. Another council member interjected. This one resembled a floating sphere of liquid metal. Humanity is, regrettably, a juvenile species. Your technology is primitive. Your understanding of stellar mechanics is elementary. Even if we gave you our aid, the probability of success is less than 40%. The Council cannot justify such an expenditure for such uncertain returns. Do-hyun felt anger rising in his chest, hot and fierce. Then, help us evacuate. Give us ships. Give us the means to save our people. Even if we cannot save our world. The Council is already engaged in relocation efforts for 17 established civilizations in the Cascade's path, Vrexoth said. Its tone suggested the matter was closed. These species have contributed to galactic civilization for millennia. They have earned the right to preservation. Humanity has been part of the galactic community for barely 3 centuries. You have contributed little beyond basic resource extraction and cultural curiosities. We have contributed our best, Do-hyun shouted. The chamber's acoustics made his voice ring like a bell. We have shared every discovery, every innovation. We have followed every law and regulation. What more could we have done in 300 years? Perhaps, if your species had spent less time on internal conflicts and more time on advancement, you would have the capability to save yourselves, the liquid metal being said coldly. Do-hyun looked around the chamber, searching for any face that showed sympathy. He found few. Most of the council members simply stared at him with the detached interest of scientists observing an experiment. "Is this your final decision?" he asked quietly. "It is," Vrexoth declared. "The council wishes Earth good fortune in its endeavors. This session is concluded." The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. Do-hyun spent most of it in his quarters aboard the human transport ship, staring at the walls. The ship's captain, a woman named Heejin, tried to speak with him several times. He sent her away each time. What was there to say? He had failed. He had stood before the most powerful beings in the galaxy and begged for his species' survival, and they had turned him away like a beggar asking for coins. When Earth finally appeared in the viewport, that beautiful blue marble hanging in the darkness, Do-hyun felt something inside him shift. The despair that had paralyzed him began to transform into something else, something harder and colder. He called Captain Heejin to his quarters. "Tell me honestly," he said when she arrived. "If the council will not help us, can we save ourselves?" Heejin met his eyes. She was young for a starship captain, maybe 40 years old, with scars on her hands from years of working in engine rooms before earning her command. "I do not know," she admitted. "But I know we will die if we do nothing. At least if we try. We die on our feet instead of our knees." Do-hyun nodded slowly. "Then we try." The shuttle brought him down to Geneva, where the United Earth government maintained its headquarters. He walked through the marble halls to the assembly chamber, where representatives from every nation waited to hear his report. They fell silent as he entered. Do-hyun walked to the podium. He looked at the faces of presidents and prime ministers, generals and governors. All of them waiting. All of them hoping he had brought good news. "The Galactic Council has denied our request for aid," he said simply. "They believe we are too young, too primitive, too unimportant to save. They have calculated the cost of our survival and found it too expensive." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Do-hyun raised his hand for silence. "They have given us a death sentence," he continued. "But they have also given us something else. They have freed us from any obligation to follow their rules. We have 18 months before the void cascade reaches our solar system. I suggest we use that time to show them exactly what humanity can do when we stop asking for permission." The assembly voted unanimously. Project Ascension began that same day. Director Nari had not slept in 3 days. She stood in the command center of the Global Defense Initiative, surrounded by holographic displays showing construction projects across 4 planets and 17 moons. Every screen showed humans working, building, racing against a clock that never stopped counting down. 17 months and 3 days until the void cascade reached Earth. "Director, we have the final production numbers from the Mars facilities," an aide said, handing her a data tablet. Nari scanned the numbers. Steel production was up 15%. "Good, but not enough. It would never be enough." They needed miracles, and miracles took resources humanity did not have. "Double the workforce," she ordered. "Pull people from the lunar colonies if necessary." "Director, we have already." "I said double it." Nari's voice cut like a knife. "We are not trying to build a paradise. We are trying to build survival. Comfort is a luxury for species that have futures." The aide nodded and hurried away. Nari returned her attention to the main display, where engineer Sang-hoon was presenting his latest design to the military council. She activated the audio feed. "And that is why the conventional approach will not work," Sang-hoon was saying. The engineer looked exhausted, his hair uncombed and his clothes wrinkled. But his eyes burned with an intensity that Nari recognized. It was the look of a man who had stopped sleeping because sleep felt like surrender. "The council species built their arc ships over decades, even centuries," Sang-hoon continued. We have months. We cannot match their craftsmanship or their technology. So we do not try. Instead, we build something they never would: ships, designed to be assembled fast, using materials we can harvest quickly. He brought up a hologram of his design. The ship looked nothing like the elegant vessels that traveled between stars. It was blocky and crude, more like an industrial station than a spacecraft. But it was massive, large enough to swallow cities. We call them the Arc ships, Sang-hoon explained. Each one can house 5 million people in sustainable habitats. The hull is asteroid iron, reinforced with carbon nanolattice. The power system uses fusion cores we already know how to build. The life support is based on closed-loop agricultural systems. Everything is technology we have tested. Nothing is experimental except the quantum drive. And the quantum drive? Asked Admiral Kwan, a gray-haired woman who had commanded fleets back when humanity's greatest achievement was reaching Mars. That is where we need help, Sang-hoon admitted. Dr. Sora's team is working on it. The display switched to another location. Dr. Sora appeared, standing in a laboratory that looked like it had been built inside a repurposed cargo ship. Behind her, massive machines hummed and sparked with barely contained energy. The quantum drive works, Sora said without preamble. She had never been one for small talk. We have tested it 17 times. 14 tests succeeded. The drive can fold space, allowing faster-than-light travel without using the conventional warp corridors. And the 3 failures? Kwan asked. 2 ships were destroyed. 1 simply vanished. Sora's expression did not change. But we understand the problem now. The drive needs better field stabilization. Give us 3 more months, and we will have it working reliably. Nari made a note. 3 months to perfect the quantum drive. 5 months to build the first Arc ship. That left less than a year for everything else. The math was brutal, but it was all they had. There is something else, Sora added. During our tests, we discovered an unusual property of the quantum field. When we generate a large enough distortion, it creates a kind of spatial ripple. I believe we can weaponize this effect. The room went quiet. Weaponize. The word hung in the air like smoke. Explain, Nari said. The void cascade is not a physical object, Sora said. It is a region of collapsed spacetime. But spacetime can be manipulated. If we generate enough quantum disruption at the right frequency, we might be able to create interference patterns that destabilize the cascade structure. Might? Admiral Kwan leaned forward. What is the probability of success? Unknown, Sora admitted. We would need to gather data from inside the cascade itself. No one has ever done that, and survived. Captain Heijin spoke for the first time. She had been standing quietly at the back of the room, still wearing her ship uniform. I will do it. All eyes turned to her. The Resilience is the fastest ship in the fleet. Heijin continued. We can reach the cascade's edge in 6 weeks. We go in, gather the data Sora needs, and come back. Simple. Simple, Nari repeated flatly. Captain, the cascade destroys everything it touches. Even getting close to it is suicide. Then we do not get close. We send probes. We take readings from a distance. We stay at the very edge, and we stay for as short a time as possible. Heijin's voice was calm, matter-of-fact. But someone has to go. The data we have from long-range scans is not enough. If there is even a chance that Sora's weapon can work, we need better information. Nari looked at the captain. She saw determination in those eyes, but also something else. Acceptance. Heijin knew she might not come back. She had made peace with it. Do it, Nari said. Take whoever volunteers. Bring back everything Sora needs. The meeting continued for another 3 hours. They discussed factory quotas and resource allocation, population selection for the Arc ships, and military readiness. Every decision felt like choosing who would live and who would die, because that was exactly what they were doing. When the meeting finally ended, Nari found Sang-hoon examining his Arc ship designs again. making tiny adjustments to the hull structure. "Do you really think we can build 3 of these in time?" she asked. Sang-hoon did not look up from his work. "No. I think we can build 5 if we start immediately and never stop. I think we can save 25 million people, maybe 30 million if we pack them in tight. Out of 11 billion. Out of 11 billion, Sang-hoon agreed. His voice was hollow. But 30 million is more than 0. And who knows? Maybe Sora's weapon will work. Maybe Captain Heejin will bring back a miracle." Nari placed a hand on his shoulder. "Keep working. Make your ships as good as they can be. I will find you the resources." She left the command center and walked through the corridors of the facility. Through windows, she could see construction drones working in the zero-gravity outside. Assembling the framework of the first Ark ship, they never stopped. Day and night held no meaning anymore. Nari's personal communicator buzzed. She checked it and saw a message from the Intelligence Division. The Galactic Council had intercepted some of humanity's communications. They knew about Project Ascension. They had sent a formal message. She opened it. The message was short and cold. "The Council advises humanity to cease dangerous experimental research. Quantum field manipulation at the proposed scale could destabilize the surrounding stellar region. Further violations of safety protocols will result in sanctions." Nari read it twice, then deleted it. Sanctions. They threatened sanctions against a species already condemned to death. The absurdity almost made her laugh. She composed a response, simple and direct. "Noted. Humanity will proceed with its plans. If the Council wishes to prevent us, they are welcome to offer an alternative solution. Otherwise, stay out of our way." She sent it before she could reconsider, then returned to her office. The walls were covered with charts and graphs, projections and timelines. All of them showed the same thing. Humanity was losing a race against extinction. But they were still racing. That had to count for something. Nari pulled up the latest data from Captain Heejin's ship. The Resilience had already left orbit, accelerating toward the edge of the Void Cascade. In 6 weeks, they would know if Sora's weapon had any chance of working. In 6 weeks, they would know if humanity had any chance at all. Director Nari sat down at her desk and began reviewing the next day's production schedules. 17 months and 2 days remained. Every second mattered. Every choice could mean the difference between survival and extinction. She would not waste a single moment. The Resilience shook violently as another wave of distorted space-time washed over its hull. Captain Heejin gripped her command chair, watching the sensor readings spiral into chaos. They were still 3,000 kilometers from the cascade's edge, but reality itself was already beginning to fracture around them. "Hull integrity at 72%, reported her first officer. "We are getting spatial compression on the port side, compensating. Keep us steady," Heejin ordered. "Launch probe 7. A small cylinder shot from the ship's belly, accelerating toward the wall of darkness ahead. For 20 seconds, it transmitted data. Then, it simply ceased to exist. Vanished, as if it had never been. "Did we get it?" Heejin asked. "All readings captured," the science officer confirmed. "But Captain, these numbers do not make sense. The cascade is not just destroying matter. It is erasing space itself. Where it passes, nothing remains. Not even vacuum." Heijin stared at the darkness ahead. It looked like someone had cut a hole in the universe. Stars disappeared as they touched its edge, not exploding or fading, but simply ceasing to be. "What about Dr. Sora's theory? Can we disrupt it?" The science officer worked his console frantically. "Maybe. The cascade has a frequency. Very low, very subtle, but it is there. If we could generate a counter-frequency at sufficient power." He trailed off, shaking his head. "Captain, the energy requirements would be enormous, more than our entire fleet combined could produce." "How much more?" 1,000 times more, maybe 10,000. "We would need a power source like a star." Heijin felt something click in her mind. A star. They had a star. Earth had a star. "Send all this data back to Earth immediately," she ordered. Priority transmission. Make sure Sora and Director Nari get everything. Captain, we have another problem. The tactical officer's voice was tight with worry. We are being painted by targeting sensors. Council ships, 3 of them, approaching fast. Heijin pulled up the tactical display. 3 sleek vessels were indeed closing in. Their weapons charged but not yet firing. She opened a communication channel. This is Captain Heijin of the Earth vessel Resilience. We are conducting scientific research. The response came in the cold, crystalline voice of a council enforcer. You are conducting illegal weapons research in violation of galactic safety protocols. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. We are not developing weapons. We are trying to save our species. Your experimental quantum technology poses a risk to this entire sector. The Council has ordered all human vessels to cease operations immediately. Heijin looked at her crew. Young faces, all of them. The oldest person on this ship was 35. They had volunteered knowing they might die. And now the Council wanted to stop them from even trying. Tell the Council ships we will complete our mission. Heijin said calmly. They are welcome to file a complaint when we are finished. She closed the channel before they could respond. Helm. Take us deeper. Get me 3 more probe launches. Weapons. Keep the Council ships at a distance but do not fire unless fired upon. The Resilience dove toward the cascade like a bird diving into an ocean. The Council ships followed. But they were more cautious, hanging back. They would observe and report, but apparently they were not willing to risk themselves to stop humanity's mission. Cowards, Heijin thought. They would let Earth die but were not brave enough to actively prevent Earth from fighting back. 3 more probes launched. 3 more sets of data captured. Then the Resilience turned and burned hard for home, leaving the Council ships behind. Back on Earth, 8 months had passed since Project Ascension began. The first ARC ship hung in orbit above Mars, a massive, ungainly thing that looked like a floating city wrapped in metal. Engineer Sang-hoon stood on the observation deck of the construction station, watching welding drones attach the final sections of the hull. She is beautiful, said Ji-woo, the scientist who had been working on reverse engineering alien technology. She stood beside Sang-hoon, holding a data tablet covered in equations. She is functional, Sang-hoon corrected. Beautiful would require time we do not have. We finished the hybrid power core yesterday, Ji-woo said. The one combining our fusion system with modified Council reactor technology. It produces 40% more power than the original designs predicted. Sang-hoon turned to look at her. 40%? How? Ji-woo smiled slightly. The Council species are very good at building stable, reliable technology. But they have had the same technology for thousands of years. They stopped innovating. We took their reactor design and asked what would happen if we ran it past its rated limits. Turns out, quite a lot. And it is safe? Safe enough. It will need more maintenance. The components will wear out faster. But we are not planning a 1,000-year voyage. We just need it to work long enough to get people away from the cascade. Sang-hoon nodded slowly. How many more can you build? Give me 3 months and access to the fabrication facilities. I can outfit all 5 ARC ships with the upgraded cores. Do it. Elsewhere on Earth, in a facility buried deep beneath the Swiss Alps, Dr. Sora stood before a holographic model of the solar system. Captain Heijin's data had arrived 2 days ago. She had not stopped working since. It is possible, she said to the assembled military commanders. Difficult, insane, probably suicidal, but possible. Admiral Kwan leaned forward in her chair. Explain it in simple terms. Doctor, the void cascade has a frequency, Sora began. Think of it like a wave in the ocean. If we create another wave at exactly the right frequency and timing, the 2 waves will interfere with each other. They might cancel out, or at least disrupt each other enough to change the cascade's direction. And the energy requirements? That is where it gets complicated. We need a power source that can output energy equivalent to our sun's entire radiation for approximately 14 seconds. Nothing we have can generate that much power. Nothing anyone has, as far as I know. Then how? We use the sun itself, Sora interrupted. We build a structure around the sun that can capture its energy and channel it into a weapon array. It is called a Dyson ring. Though we would only need a partial one, just enough to gather and direct the energy we need. The room fell silent. Someone laughed nervously, then stopped when they realized Sora was serious. "Doctor," Admiral Kwan said carefully, "humanity has been a spacefaring species for 300 years. No one has ever built anything like what you are describing. The Council species have existed for millions of years, and they have never attempted it. The Council species have never needed to," Sora replied. "They always had time. They could evacuate. They could run. We do not have that luxury. We build this, or we die. Those are our only options. How long would it take? If we start immediately and dedicate every resource we have? 6 months. Maybe 7. Admiral Kwan did the math in her head. They had 8 months left. Building the Dyson ring would take most of that time. There would be no margin for error. No time for second chances. "Director Nari needs to approve this," she said finally. "Director Nari is already here," came a voice from the doorway. Nari walked into the room, her face drawn but determined. "I have been listening. Dr. Sora, can you guarantee this will work?" "No," Sora admitted. "I can guarantee we have the theoretical knowledge and the engineering capability. Whether it works when we activate it, that is a question we will only answer when we try." "Then we try," Nari said. "Admiral Kwan, begin pulling resources from the Ark ship construction. We are changing the plan." "Director," Sang-hoon protested via video link, "the Ark ships are our backup plan. If we drain resources from them, if Sora's weapon works, we will not need the Ark ships." Nari interrupted. "And if it does not work, 3 Ark ships or 5 Ark ships will not matter. We cannot save everyone. So we save no one. Or we save everyone. There is no middle ground anymore." She turned to address the entire room. "Gentlemen, ladies, we are about to attempt something no species in galactic history has ever done. We are going to weaponize a star. We will call it Operation Prometheus. We have 6 months to build it, and 1 chance to use it. Get to work." The room erupted into activity. Plans were drawn up, resources allocated, construction crews mobilized. In orbit above Earth, Ark ship construction slowed as materials were redirected to a new project. Around the sun, marker buoys were placed, defining where the Dyson ring would be built. Pilot Taman sat in the cockpit of an experimental fighter, watching the construction begin. He had been selected to test the first Defiance Protocol weapons, smaller versions of Sora's big design. His ship hummed with barely contained power, the quantum disruptor mounted beneath its belly glowing faintly blue. "Test 7, beginning now," he reported calmly. He fired the disruptor at an empty patch of space. Reality rippled, twisted, then snapped back into place. The sensors showed a brief distortion. Exactly as predicted. "It works," Taman confirmed. "The weapon actually works." For the first time in months, he allowed himself to hope. 3 weeks remained until the void cascade reached Earth's solar system. The Dyson ring floated in space around the sun, a band of silver metal and crystal arrays that caught the light and threw it back in rainbows. It was not complete. It would never be complete, but it was enough. Enough to channel the sun's fury into a weapon that might save them all. Admiral Kwan stood on the bridge of the command station, watching the final calibrations. Engineers swarmed over every section of the ring, making last-minute adjustments. They had built this impossible thing in 5 months and 23 days. It should not have worked. By all reasonable engineering standards, it should have collapsed into molten slag weeks ago, but humanity had stopped caring about what was reasonable. "Status report," Kwan ordered. "Primary collection arrays at 97% efficiency," an engineer reported. "Energy transfer conduits are stable. Targeting systems are synced with Dr. Sora's calculations. We are ready to fire on your command." Kwan nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Ready to fire. Such simple words for something so enormous. On the surface of Earth, General Yujin coordinated the largest evacuation in human history. Not everyone could fit on the Ark ships. They had completed 3 instead of 5, with space for 15 million people. That left billions on Earth, waiting to see if Operation Prometheus would save them. Priority groups are loaded, reported an aide. Children, essential personnel, genetic diversity selections. The last Ark ship will be ready to depart in 48 hours. And the rest? Yujin asked quietly. The aide did not answer. They both knew. The rest would stay on Earth. They would trust their lives to a weapon that had never been tested, built from theories that were barely understood. Yujin looked at the screens showing people gathered in cities across the planet. They were not panicking. They were not rioting. They stood together. Families and strangers, watching the sky and waiting. Some prayed, some sang, some simply held each other. Make sure every shelter is stocked and reinforced, Yujin ordered. If the cascade hits, I want every second of protection we can give them. In orbit around Earth, Captain Heijin stood on the bridge of the Resilience, now the flagship of humanity's defensive fleet. Around her ship, 300 other vessels held position. They were not warships. Humanity did not have warships, had never needed them before. These were mining ships and transport vessels, science platforms and construction barges. Anything that could mount a weapon had been pressed into service. All ships report ready, her first officer said. Defiance protocol weapons are charged and targeted. Heijin studied the tactical display. 300 ships against a force that had destroyed entire star systems. The math was laughable. But they would try anyway. Send a message to the fleet, she said. Tell them. It has been an honor to serve with them. Communications officer Heiyun worked her console, relaying the message. She was young, barely 23, with steady hands and clear eyes. She had a gift for languages, and had spent the last 3 months in secret communication with other species threatened by the cascade. Captain, Houn said suddenly, I am receiving multiple contact signals. Unknown vessels entering the system. Heijin's hand went to her sidearm instinctively. Council ships? Council ships. No, ma'am, the signatures are wrong. They are. Hayun's eyes went wide. Captain, there are dozens of them. Small ships, different designs. They are broadcasting on open channels. They are saying they came to help. The tactical display lit up with new contacts. Heijin counted them quickly. 50 ships, 100, 200. They kept coming. Vessels of different shapes and sizes. None of them matching council designs. One of the ships hailed them directly. The face that appeared on the screen was alien purple skin. 3 eyes. Facial features that looked almost insect-like. But the expression was unmistakable. It was determined. This is Captain Vila of the Free World Tauros 7, the alien said in halting but clear English. We received your Defiance Protocol specifications. We built weapons. We came to fight. Heijin felt her throat tighten. Captain Vila, this is not your fight. The cascade is not threatening your world. Not yet, Vila replied. But it will. The council abandoned us too. Said we were too small to matter. You showed us we do not need them. You taught us we can save ourselves. Now we help you. More channels opened. More captains introduced themselves. Representatives of 14 different species, all of them classified as minor civilizations by the Council. All of them ignored by the greater powers. All of them here, ready to stand with humanity. They built their own defiance weapons, Hayun whispered, reviewing the data streams. They reverse-engineered our designs and built their own versions. Captain, there are almost 400 ships out there now. Heijin blinked back tears. 400 ships. It still might not be enough. But they would not die alone. All ships. This is Captain Heijin of Earth. She broadcast on an open channel. Form up in defensive formation Delta 7. Prepare to engage the cascade on my mark. And thank you. Thank you all for being here. In the underground facility, Dr. Sora made final adjustments to the Dyson ring's firing sequence. Dr. Minji stood beside her. Medical equipment ready. They both knew that if this failed, medical equipment would not help anyone. The calculations are complete, Sora said. We fire 14 pulses, each lasting 1.7 seconds, at intervals of 0.3 seconds. Total duration, 21 seconds. If our timing is off by even a tenth of a second, the interference pattern fails. And if it works, the cascade will fracture. The disruption should cause it to split into smaller waves, forcing it to route around the solar system instead of through it. Should? Sora managed a thin smile. Should. Physics is not always cooperative with human wishes. Above them, visible through the facility's viewing ports, the sky began to darken. The void cascade was arriving. Admiral Quan watched it come. The darkness spread across the stars like ink on paper, consuming light itself. Planets in the outer system touched the edge and vanished without a sound. Jupiter's moons disappeared one by one, then Jupiter itself, the great gas giant that had dominated Earth's sky for all of human history, simply ceased to exist. Range to cascade, 200 million kilometers and closing, Tactical reported. Impact with Mars orbit in 17 minutes. All ships, begin deployment, Quan ordered. Operation Prometheus is go. The fleet moved into position. 400 ships spread out in a careful pattern, each one positioned at a specific point in three-dimensional space. They looked like a net thrown across the void, tiny lights against infinite darkness. Dyson ring, begin charging sequence, Quan continued. Target coordinates confirmed. Fire on my mark. The ring began to glow. Energy flowed from the sun, channeled through systems built by desperate hands in impossible timeframes. The weapon had never been tested at full power. They had no idea if it would work, or if it would simply explode and take them all with it. Captain Heejin gripped her command chair as the cascade drew closer. She could see it now with her own eyes. A wall of nothing that stretched from horizon to horizon. It was beautiful in a terrible way. Like watching death itself approach. All ships, stand by, she broadcast. Activate Defiance weapons on 3. 1. 2. 3. 400 quantum disruptors fired as one. Space itself rippled and twisted, energy patterns cascading across the void. The cascade's edge touched the disruption field and slowed. It is working, someone shouted. The cascade is slowing, but it was not stopping. The darkness pushed forward, consuming the disruption field meter by meter. Ships at the forward edge began to falter, their weapons overheating. Dyson ring fire, Admiral Quan ordered. The sun's fury was unleashed. 14 pulses of pure energy, each one carrying the output of a star, lanced across space and struck the void cascade dead center. The darkness shuddered. Cracks appeared in its structure, spreading like fractures in glass. Keep firing, Quan shouted. All ships, maximum power. The combined fleet poured everything they had into the cascade. Human ships and alien vessels working together, their weapons creating a web of quantum disruption that grew stronger with each passing second. The cascade fractured, split, began to root around the points of resistance. It is working, Dr. Sora breathed, watching her instruments. It is actually working, but then alarms began to sound. The Dyson ring was overheating. Its systems pushed beyond their design limits. Sections began to fail, melting under the strain. We are losing it, an engineer screamed. The ring cannot take this much power. Keep firing, Quan ordered. Do not stop until the cascade passes. The ring held for 17 more seconds. Then it began to break apart, massive sections tearing free and tumbling toward the sun. But it had done enough. The cascade split completely, 2 waves of darkness routing around the solar system like water around a stone. Earth survived. Humanity survived. In the silence that followed, Captain Heijin looked at her displays. 30 ships had been destroyed. Hundreds of people dead. but billions lived. The impossible had been achieved. The viewing screens showed Earth from orbit, blue and green and beautiful. Clouds swirled over oceans. Cities glittered in the sunlight. The planet looked exactly as it had before the cascade, as if nothing had happened at all, but everything had changed. Ambassador Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the Resilience, watching the planet he had thought he would never see again. Around him, the crew moved quietly, still processing what they had accomplished. They had stared into extinction and refused to blink. "Ambassador," Captain Hagen said softly, "we are receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They request a meeting." Do-hyun smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Do they? Tell them I will meet them here, on this ship. If they want to talk to humanity, they can come to us." 3 days later, a Council diplomatic vessel arrived in Earth orbit. It was sleek and beautiful. Everything human ships were not. But Do-hyun felt no envy, watching it dock with the Resilience. Human ships might be ugly, but they had saved the world. High Arbiter Vrexoth materialized in the conference room, accompanied by 4 other council members. The crystalline being looked the same as it had during Do-hyun's plea for help, cold and eternal, and utterly unmoved by the passage of time. "Ambassador Do-hyun," Vrexoth began, "the Council has observed your actions with great interest. Your success in diverting the Void Cascade is unprecedented. No juvenile species has ever accomplished such a feat." Do-hyun let the words hang in the air for a moment. "Is that why you are here? To congratulate us on not dying?" "We are here to extend formal membership in the Galactic Council," Vrexoth continued, as if he had not spoken. "After careful review, we have determined that humanity has demonstrated sufficient capability to join the Council as a voting member. This is a great honor." "Only 47 species." 48, Do-hyun interrupted. "There are 48 species on the Council. You keep forgetting to count yourselves." The Council members shifted uncomfortably. Do-hyun had never interrupted Vrexoth before. In their first meeting, he had been humble and pleading. Now he stood tall, his voice steady and cold. "We also wish to offer our apologies," another council member said. This one looked like a floating cloud of silver mist. "Our calculations regarding the cascade were in error. We did not believe it could be diverted with available technology." "You did not try," Do-hyun said flatly. "You had the resources. You had the knowledge. You simply decided we were not worth saving. We made a pragmatic decision based on probability analysis," Vrexoth stated. "Surely you understand." "I understand perfectly." Do-hyun cut him off. "You saw the cost and decided it was too high. That is fine. That is your choice. But do not stand here and pretend you made a mistake. You made a decision. You decided we could die. And you were content with that decision." The conference room fell silent. Captain Heejin stood against the wall, her arms crossed, watching the council members with an expression that could cut steel. Dr. Sora sat at the conference table, taking notes as if this were just another scientific meeting. Director Nari stood beside Do-hyun, her face carefully neutral. "We offer our deepest regrets," Vrexoth said finally. "And we offer membership, full voting rights, access to council technology and resources. These are significant benefits." "And what do you offer the other species who helped us?" Do-hyun asked. "The 14 civilizations who came when we needed them? The ones you also classified as too minor to matter? They are not under discussion," the silver mist being said. "This offer is for humanity alone. Then we decline." The council members reacted as if he had slapped them. Vrexoth's crystalline form actually flickered with surprise. "You decline membership in the Galactic Council?" "We accept membership," Do-hyun clarified, "but only under new terms. The Council must be restructured to give voice to all spacefaring species, regardless of age or power. The 14 species who fought beside us must also receive full membership, and the Council's charter must be amended to prevent any species from being abandoned to die just because helping them is inconvenient." "That is impossible," Vrexoth stated. "The Council's structure has existed for millions of years. It cannot be changed on the whim of a single species. Then I suppose we remain independent, Do-hyun said pleasantly. Along with our 14 allies, we will form our own coalition. The council can continue as it always has, and we will manage our own affairs. You would divide the galaxy? The silver mist being sounded shocked. Create a competing power structure? We would create an alternative. Director Nari spoke up for the first time. The council serves established civilizations very well, but it does nothing for developing species. Someone needs to fill that gap. Admiral Kwan's face appeared on a communication screen. I have 14 allied species standing by, Ambassador. They have agreed to join a mutual defense coalition if the Council refuses reform. We would call it the Coalition of the Risen. Species who saved themselves when no one else would. The Council members conferred among themselves in whispers and thought patterns that humans could not follow. Finally, Vrexoth turned back to Do-hyun. What exactly are you proposing? Simple, Do-hyun said. The Council expands to include all spacefaring species as full members. Yes. That means hundreds of new voices. Yes. It means the older species will have less individual power. But it also means the next time a crisis comes, there will be more minds working on solutions, more perspectives, more innovation. The younger species lack experience. Vrexoth objected. And the older species lack urgency, Do-hyun countered. You have grown comfortable. Stable. You have forgotten what it means to fight for survival. We have not. And we can teach you. If you let us. Dr. Sora leaned forward. We are also willing to share the Defiance Protocol technology with the entire Council. Free of charge. The next time a phenomenon like the Void Cascade appears, you will have the tools to fight it. The 14 allied species have also agreed to share their innovations, Director Nari added. Between all of us, we have developed technologies that complement and enhance Council systems. Imagine what we could accomplish working together instead of separately. The Council members conferred again, this time for nearly an hour. Do-hyun waited patiently. He had learned patience the hard way. Standing in the Council chambers months ago and begging for help that never came. Now he stood tall, offering partnership between equals. Finally, Vrexoth spoke. The Council will agree to limited expansion, 10 new member species, chosen by merit. All species, Do-hyun said firmly, or we walk away. Another long pause. Then, impossibly, Vrexoth's crystalline form seemed to slump slightly. Very well. All spacefaring species will receive representation. The Council will undergo restructuring to accommodate expanded membership. This is unprecedented. Good, Do-hyun said. The galaxy could use more precedents like this. The Council members departed shortly after, leaving the humans alone in the conference room. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Captain Hagen began to laugh. A sound of pure relief and exhausted triumph. We did it, she said. We actually did it. We survived, Do-hyun corrected. Now comes the hard part. Rebuilding. Making good on our promises. Proving we deserve the voice we demanded. We will, Director Nari said with certainty. We built the impossible in 6 months. We can handle whatever comes next. 3 months later, the reformed Galactic Council held its first session in the new chambers built to accommodate 300 member species. The room was vast and chaotic, filled with voices arguing and debating in hundreds of languages. It was messy and inefficient, and absolutely nothing like the cold, ordered meetings of the old council. Do-hyun loved it. He stood at the podium, preparing to deliver Earth's first official address to the full council. Around him, representatives from worlds he had never heard of waited to speak. Some were old civilizations finally being given a voice. Others were young, like humanity, still learning their place in the galaxy. Honored members. Do-hyun began. I stand before you, not as a supplicant, but as a partner. 6 months ago, the old council measured humanity by our age and found us wanting. They calculated the value of our survival and decided it was too low. They were wrong. He paused, letting his words echo through the chamber. We measured ourselves by our deeds, and found we could stand as tall as any civilization in this galaxy. We proved that determination matters more than age, innovation matters more than tradition, and the willingness to fight for your people matters more than any calculation of probability. The Void Cascade was only the first of many threats this galaxy will face. Dr. Minho's research has identified 17 similar phenomena approaching various sectors. Some of you will face them in decades, others in centuries. But they are coming. The old council would have picked and chosen who to save based on value calculations. The new council will work together to save everyone. That is the promise we make today. No species left behind, no civilization deemed too young or too small to matter. We share our technology freely. We offer our help without condition. And we ask only that you do the same. Together, we can face any challenge. Divided, we will fail. The choice is ours. Do-hyun stepped back from the podium. The chamber erupted in debate, dozens of species talking at once. But beneath the chaos, he heard something new. Hope, purpose, the sound of civilizations coming together instead of standing apart. Captain Hagen found him after the session ended. That was quite a speech. It was the truth, Do-hyun said simply. What happens now is up to them. We showed them a better way. Whether they follow it is their choice. They will, Hagen said with confidence. We proved it works. That is all anyone really needs. They walked together through the new council halls, past representatives from 100 different worlds. Some nodded to them respectfully. Others still looked skeptical, but none looked at humanity as if they were children anymore. Earth had risen to its full height, and the galaxy would never be the same.